right, everybody, welcome in. We are at the beautiful new field house here in Ohatchee, Alabama, and Coach Martin's office for Mornings with Martin. Mornings with Martin brought to you by Ohatchee Discount Supermarket. Coach, we've had a lot of positive feedback since we've been doing these Mornings with Martin. We appreciate you having us in today. And we want to start off, Coach. You had a tough one last Friday night. Ended up losing to Welborn in overtime. A tough loss. Take us back to Friday night, just the overall recap of the game, in your opinion.
Well, first of all, let's give them a lot of credit. They're a number 3 team in 3A. They went to the state semis last year. They had a lot of their skilled guys back, some of their linemen back. They're used to being in those big situations, those big games, as we are too. And, it was such a great atmosphere for a football game. It was like a playoff atmosphere. The one thing is, it was kind of a throwback to the old days of football. They're a power running football team. We're a power running football team. And it was just, as I said earlier, it was a slobber knocker of a game. It was two teams that physically got after each other. And I'm sure both teams woke up the morning after with a few bumps and bruises.
There's no doubt about that. And, we're talking about a top 10 matchup here and hosting that out here and that atmosphere. Josh was here. And he called me immediately that night and was talking about, man, this is like a playoff type atmosphere. How good do you think that is to get that this early and getting to test that bunch that you have, some of these new guys?
Well, I think the last couple of years in AA, obviously overall the competition wasn't as strong inside of your region. The one thing about our region is from top to bottom, some of the teams aren't as good as they have been in the past, but they're always going to be big and physical. And I think one of the things about this region is every game is a test. And so, last year, outside of the Ramburn game, we didn't really have a very physical, tough, close, 4-quarter football game. And this year, I expect to see a lot of them inside of our region. And the other night was just a classic case. We talk about playing 48 minutes, but the other night was a 48-minute plus game.
That's
and
right.
I was proud of the way our kids fought through the adversity. We got behind. We played really well on defense, not quite as well on offense as we had played in the past. But I was proud of our kids being able to fight through adversity after a few turnovers and being able to come back and get ourselves in position and tie the game. It was just a shame we couldn't finish the job off. But, like I said in the beginning, give those guys a lot of credit too, because they were playing hard also. And, but I was proud that our guys gave ourselves a shot to win at the end.
You talk about that defense. You guys only gave up 144 yards total.
Yes.
I believe that's regular time and overtime combined. Talk about that defense specifically and how well they played all year, honestly.
Well, our first defense over the last few years has played real well. Coach Jennings and those guys do a great job with them, and they do a great job in preparation and leave no stone unturned. And I feel like when we go into any football game, if we've got enough video on people, those guys are able to tendency people out and do a great job of that. What was really impressive the other night is you would think as the game would go on, you would get more tired. But in actuality, our defense got better. In the second half, they only gave up 45 yards of offense, period. And, they gave us an opportunity. Unfortunately, we gave up 10 more in the overtime period, but it wasn't that we didn't play well. For 4 quarters, we gave up 115 yards of rushing, 19 yards of passing. They had 2 carries in the overtime to get the other 10 yards. But outside of that, our defense played lights out the whole game and gave us opportunity after opportunity. And from an offensive standpoint, we just weren't able to execute with the precision that we needed. And again, giving credit where credit's due, those guys were playing hard on the other side too.
I want to talk to you about something that you and I have talked to each other about several times off the camera, and it's the state of the program when you got here and once you built now. This is the first regular season loss you've had since 2017, correct?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that is a pretty unbelievable standard right there, considering the teams you've played.
Right.
And what does that mean to you personally to know that teams actually celebrate on the field and it's a huge thing to beat Ohatchee now?
I think our kids probably would have run on the field also had we won. I think that there's a little something extra special with the Welborn and Ohatchee rivalry. there used to be a house that sits right here where this field house was, and at one time, Coach Smith, the head coach at Welborn, was the head coach at Ohatchee, and he lived in the house that sat on this area. So his kids grew up under the Ohatchee O. So there's a lot of sentimental feelings toward Ohatchee on, Coach Smith's side. And I think that the rivalry has just kind of manifested itself. And I think over the 5 times that we've played since I've been here, they won the first 2 big. We won the next 2 fairly big. And then last night went into overtime. So, wow. I mean, it's turned into a heck of a rivalry football game. But I am proud of what our kids have been able to accomplish, and our coaches, and turning our program into what it's become, which is, a top level program. And, I give credit where credit's due. 2 things make that happen: having good assistant football coaches that can coach and, take some responsibility on their own, and they're accountable for their actions, and also good players. I mean, our players have dedicated themselves to being as good as they can be. Now, you don't have to be the most talented player, but if there's a dedication there and there's an effort there, they can find a way to get on the field. And I think most of our players are overachievers, and they find a way to get on the field.
100%. Now, I know you well enough to know you don't lose, you learn. I know you well enough to know that, and I know on paper, you seem like a guy's just a free loving guy, but I know you really care and you dig deep into this. What did you learn about this club the other night after this loss?
Well, I mean, you know how everything goes. Whenever you lose a football game, I think that probably coaches get too much credit when we win. They probably get too much negativity when we lose, but it's just the nature of the beast, the nature of the job. I thought the other night what we learned is that from an offensive standpoint, we need, as coaches, we need to back off and become better precisionists, better executioners, better guys that can get out and get the job done. And, it does, at every level, you're not going to trick people. I mean, you can put in a trick play and it's fun to practice and it's fun to do, but what do? One time a game and it might work and it might not work? What are you doing those other 99% of the time? What plays are you running? And if they're not working, why are they not working? And so many times it's easy to get spread out and thin the water so much that you're, as they say, a jack of all trades but master of none. And I just felt like that, the other night our players, we didn't hang our hat on what I thought we did best or what we do best. And, we missed some easy assignments. And that goes back to coaching. It goes back to maybe putting too much on those guys. So, this week, as all coaches do after a big loss, is they go back to the drawing board, they go back to the ABCs, they go back to the very beginning and go back to the foundation and figure out what we've got to improve in. So we learned a lot. We learned that we need to keep playing as many players as we can play, just because depth-wise in this league, you better have some depth. If you don't, it's hard to survive a whole game without it. And so, we're finding some players that can play for us and come in. And, we also learned, and I tell our kids this all the time, one loss is one loss. And you've got to be able to put that behind you. And that's one thing that you have to teach kids, because around here, the last 3 losses were all season-ending losses. We lost in the playoffs in 17. We lost to Fife in the playoffs in 18, which was our only loss of the year. And then we lost last year to Collinsville in the playoffs, which was our only loss of the year. So every loss we've had up until this one was a season-ending loss. So I'm really not sure our kids knew how to respond to it.
Yeah.
And, some of them you'd have thought it was a season-ending loss. And so, we've got to reteach our kids that, when you lose, it's not the end of the world. I mean, we've still got, 6 region games left that we've got to play, and still are in control of your own destiny as far as what you're trying to do and what your goals are ultimately. So I think it's important that we get out and move beyond and move on to the next week, and I don't think our kids or coaches are going to have any problem with that.
Josh also talked to me after the game. We always check in and see how teams are done, but he said, man, I'm going to tell you something about this bunch right here. They battled. Mm-hmm. They battled and they battled. He said there's guys banged up, there's guys hurt. Mm-hmm. And he said when the horn sounded and ultimately they ended up losing, he said you could see it in their eyes, it's hurting.
Yeah.
He's like, this dude's a bunch of winners, man. What does that mean to you?
That means a lot to me. You know, you like to know that your kids care about what they're doing. I mean, in today's society, it's easy for kids to be nonchalant. And, you know, I've been on programs where teams will lose a game, and before they can even get back in the locker room, there's laughing, giggling, people on talking about something else, what they're going to do for the weekend, whatever. Or if you're on a bus ride back after a loss, I've heard them, and you know, and you think, we just lost a game, and it doesn't matter to those guys. Well, this team's a little bit different than that, and so have the last few teams. Is every game is important, and it does mean a lot to those guys. And I promise you, there wasn't a guy that walked out of here that was laughing, giggling, or thinking about something else.
That's right.
Coaches included.
Now, let me ask you something, Coach. I know all games are physical. We're talking about football here, but when you're in an absolute war of a dogfight, and like you said, you hadn't had a loss, a non-ending, season-ending loss in a long time, but after a real physical game like that, do you alter what you do, like letting the guys come back in, or like before you get back into the physical type stuff?
Well, it's a holiday. It's a holiday this weekend, but we didn't give them a holiday. You know, I think all honors are earned. You know, they're not. You don't just give them things because you feel sorry for them. But I think as coaches, you also have to recognize, you know, the type of game you play, how you respond to that game. I mean, I would be a fool to bring them back out here and physically beat them up, because when they come in, you know, on Sunday, they're going to be physically beat up. I mean, I already know that, you know, and there's those guys that, now the guys that maybe didn't get in the game, I mean, obviously other than maybe mentally beat up a little bit,
yeah.
But physically, the guys that play, I mean, they're going to be hobbled up, stoved up, you know, moving around, bumps, bruises, swelling. I mean, it's just part of the game of football. So as a coach, we just recognize those, and we work out according to that. You know, a lot of it, you know, when we get them in here, is going to be stretching them and breaking a sweat and getting some of that lactic acid moving around. And, you know, as I like to say, I'd like to, you know, have a pizza and a movie. The movie would be a horror movie this week. You know, it'd be a horror movie, but, you know, it wouldn't be a comedy. So, you know, we'll bring them in and watch the film. But, you know, like I told the coaches, is I'm not here to berate players. I mean, they are what we got. What's in that locker room is our guys.
That's right.
It isn't going to change between, you know, the end of the game and the next day that we see those guys. They're our guys, and we got to love on them, you know, because, you know, when you're winning, everybody's loving on them. And if you lose a game, we're the only ones loving on them, you know.
Unfortunately,
so you know, we're going to love on them, but we're also, you know, I told our guys, we don't have to berate guys. We don't have to dress guys down. When they made a mistake, let's coach them and teach them. If they made a mistake, they didn't because they were trying. They didn't go out to that play and say, I'm going to screw this play up, or I'm going to run in the wrong place, or I'm not going to make the right block, or I'm not going to line up correctly defensively, or those guys aren't thinking that when they line up. They think they're doing the right things every time. Right. So us as coaches have to make those corrections and teach them, because if they're consistently doing it wrong, then it does lie with me and the staff.
Right.
So we've got to do a really good job of breaking down this film, looking at every play, and if there's some consistency that's wrong, then we got to break those inconsistencies. And that's what we'll do this week.
Now, you mentioned earlier being back in this 3A region, you get SEC West gauntlet of a schedule. Well, now you have 4A Powerhouse Oaks Bluff, who's a perennial powerhouse that, you know, year in, year out.
That has come down to 3A and is in our region.
And hey, they're averaging 280, 290 across the front.
Yes, they are.
Again, as usual.
Yes.
Downhill running team.
Yes.
What have you seen from those guys in preparation for coming up this week?
Well, I couldn't comment on it because I hadn't watched the down of it yet. Okay. I mean, I've spent more time evaluating our game from the night before than watching those guys yet.
Gotcha.
And I'll spend this evening into the weekend, you know, and then Monday morning we'll practice. We'll practice from 8 to 10 on Labor Day, and that way I can get them out of here by 10 so they can go spend the rest of the day with their family and not have to worry about all day. You know, when you do practice in the evening on Labor Day, we got practice this evening, so that's everybody's worried about that. And then inevitably there'll be 2 or 3 guys that parents will send me a text and say, we're just not going to be able to get back in time because they're either out on the water or they're at grandma's house or whatever. So I practice early in the morning, and then boom, now you can go spend all day with your family. And so, you know, we're gonna get with those guys, and we'll spend time between, you know, the game and then before we step on the field on Monday, getting ready for Hoax Bluff. But we know that Coach Rob's going to put a quality product on the field no matter what. You know, when he's had some good teams and when he's had some teams that weren't as good, one thing they never were, and that was very bad fundamentally. They're always going to be a sound fundamental football team. They're going to be well coached, and they're going to give us fits if we're not ready. I'm just telling you, it's going to be a battle.
I call him the dean of Etowah County coaches.
Well, I can understand why. And he's had some very good teams of late, and they've started off well again. And so, you know, they're an opponent that we're not familiar with. Since I've been here, we've never played Hoax Bluff. To be honest with you, up until watching video the last 24 hours, I'd never really watched any film on Hoax Bluff. I mean, I'd never had a common opponent. You know, most of the common opponents, I played them early in the year, so I never got to see a Hoax Bluff film. So this is my first time getting to watch them. And again, big, physical, fundamental, you know, very, very similar to the type of team we played this week.
Absolutely. Now, Coach, a lot of times after a loss, especially a team that's very, very successful like you have been and continue to be, a loss will get your guys' attention a little bit more. Do you feel that way?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Our guys
will be a little bit easier.
Our guys will be a little bit more focused. Now, not that they weren't focused last week, but no matter what you say, there's always complacency. Gotcha. Complacency always sets in. Even the teams with long winning streaks, which we had a 20-something game, you know, regular season winning streak that got broke. There's games that we had played probably in those 20-something games that complacency had set in, and we were just so much better that it didn't matter. And I've always been proud that we've been able to play opponents week by week by week by week. And, you know, we were focused this past week, but so was that team on the other side of the field. I mean, and those guys had a focus too. And I mean, it was a great high school football game probably to watch on TV if you like those slobber knocker type games. And as a high school football coach, it was a fun game to coach. I mean, it was. But somebody's going to win it, somebody's going to lose it, and you know it's just one game, and so we've got to be able to rebound off that one game.
Well, before we get out here, Coach, we got to know, what is Coach Scott Martin doing for Labor Day?
What am I doing for Labor Day? I have got 5 grandkids that'll be at my house. And I'm sure Coach Scott Martin will be Chef Scott Martin and Boat Captain Scott Martin. And I mean, I will climb on of course they call me Poppy, so it'll be Captain Poppy, Chef Poppy. I'll be Jungle Jim Poppy. I'm sure, you know, it's one of those things I was like, told my wife, that shoot, I got to go to work.
I just want to urge the people of Ohatchee, if we could get Captain Martin going, that would be.
Yeah, for real.
But it has. It's you know, we're going to enjoy ourselves too for Labor Day after practice, and
it's a good time though. I mean, if I lost, now you got a good day, extra day.
Well, I like the extra day to get the cobwebs out a little bit, and you know, we're gonna correct errors, but then our focus on our guys when they leave is going to be on Hoax Bluff. 100%. I mean, it's not going to be, you know, we'll lick wounds. We've already done all the wound licking that we're going to do. I mean, our job right now is to be as healthy as we can be next Friday night.
There you go.
And that's always important. And look, let me finish it by saying this. I am glad we're playing high school football.
Yes. You better believe it.
You know, there are people around the country that hadn't started yet. I was reading where Louisiana is going to start like September 25th, you know, and play in October and November. And I hope they get all their seasons in, and their playoffs are going to run all the way through Christmas and beyond. But I'm just excited that we're playing high school football, and it gives us a sense of normalcy. It gives the kids a sense of normalcy, and I think it gives the fans a 2-hour break or 3-hour break to come out, and there's a sense of normalcy.
This
right
means the world to towns like Ohatchee.
Mm-hmm.
There's towns, that we cover, like 5, Central Clay and Ashland area, but
The whole town.
the whole it just breathes new life in them.
It does, and I mean, high school football is a way of life, to be honest with you, and just knowing that we're playing right now and we've stayed on schedule is important, and we're continuing to knock on wood every week that we stay down that. But I think as long as the numbers still show a decline overall, I think you're going to see us continue right where we are, and I'm excited about that.
I have to give fans and administration a lot of credit, because you actually see some of the things that we're told to do, they're doing them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some of the fans are willing to sacrifice to see it continue.
And I do, and I know when people look up in stands and they'll look and say, those people aren't social distance, or those people don't have a mask on. You got to realize there's a lot of people that's families.
That's right.
And they're not going to wear masks within each other, and they don't have to be social distance when they're families. So, but I think you see families social distanced from other families.
Correct.
And so we gotta, and then as long as you're social distance from that other family, that mask mandate's a little bit different. And I know it struggles for people to see that, but I understand. And good gosh, I mean, we're over 6 feet, so I'm good.
Well, Coach, Jungle Gym chef,
That's right.
boat captain Martin,
Yeah.
we are glad you let us come in. Another great episode, and we can't wait to be back out and talk to you again.
And we appreciate it. Thank you very much.